Welcome back to the Blame Game for the quarterfinals of Worlds 2016. The matches this weekend gave us the full spectrum of play, where one was an amazing series that went the distance and the other one was a quick 3-0. The threads were mostly full of people needing to adjust their pants while talking about how awesome the Koreans are, which caused a serious lack of blame. Now, this show runs on accusations, so come on guys, I need you to step up in the future. Until then, I will carry the load all on my own. Let's start with the Rocks vs SKT series. Now I know this was an amazing series, but there is still some blame to be had. Most deserving of this is probably Kuro. Now I know a lot of people like to point to him as the weak link on the team, but honestly I have more of a problem with players failing to live up for their role on the team than just being the weakest member on it. I don't think anyone's surprised by the fact that Kuro was down CS in lane pressure versus Faker. If he was able to make plays on the map or just hold on in lane while his team made plays on the map, then I don't think anyone would be upset over the fact that he's down 20 CS every game. Unfortunately for Kuro, his roam plays were really low impact and he was not just hanging on in lane. Almost all his roam plays were like this one from game 1, where Faker has total control of the lane. After his reset, Kuro never actually pushes in the wave versus Faker and hangs around near mid for a little bit before trying to join the dive that's going to happen top. Now obviously all three Rocks members play this dive horribly and miss some critical abilities, and Kuro doesn't end up committing his flash. As a result, he ends up down a ton of CS and eventually loses complete control of the lane, and Peanut needs to come cover him. Over the course of the series, he did receive a fair amount of attention from SKT's junglers, and I'm not that upset that it occasionally resulted in his death. That said, there are some instances like game 2 where he loses his summoners from a gank and doesn't play out the lane appropriately afterwards, resulting in him getting solo killed by Faker. Right after he respawns, he teleports bottom right away, which only nets them one extra kill and puts Kuro further behind. His teleport usage all series long was a huge problem, as almost every attempt just got disengaged easily by SKT. Like I said, I don't expect Kuro to beat Faker or even really go equal, but the map plays that he goes for need to be successful. If there's any blame for Kuro, I'd agree with it. Let's move on to Samsung vs H2K, but keep this line of thinking in mind. First topic I want to touch on is Ryu. Now, he's been on fire during this tournament, and a lot of people have said that this is the best he's looked since his Season 3 days. Unlike Kuro, who was expected to lose individually but make good team plays, a lot of people were actually looking for Ryu to contest Crown in the 1v1. Unfortunately, it really didn't pan out like that, as Ryu was down 20 CS and a couple of kills every single game. It looked like Crown was a lot more comfortable in the matchups and was able to get a lot of free damage onto Ryu. A lot of games that H2K looked for mid got turned by Samsung because Ryu was always down health in the engagement. His 2 games on Rise, I can only remember a single ultimate that even did anything, and it was just used to basically secure a kill. Now obviously it was extremely unlikely that H2K was going to be able to win this series, but it was downright impossible with how Ryu was playing on this day. H2K needed to snowball off some early advantages, but Ryu's constant deficits in the early game crippled any other advantages they managed to get. Speaking of early game advantages, this transitions me to H2K's draft. This was probably the only thing that received real blame in the series, and it was usually centered around the AD carry position. I, however, want to talk about the support position and specifically the Misfortune pick. We heard CoreJJ say that he never actually even played it in a team setting before and only played it because it was so successful in the previous series. Knowing this, I was shocked at how poorly H2K picked and banned around it. Game 1, H2K takes Zyra in the first rotation, which seems to win every single support matchup except the Misfortune one. This gives Samsung the free counter pick and therefore the winning lane. I understand if you don't want to just assume that Samsung plays the Misfortune pick, but it's still very risky to go for this. This leads to a Game 2 ban on MF, which confirms for Samsung that H2K does not play it, allowing Samsung, who is now on red side, to first rotation the Zyra safely, therefore taking the strongest support pick. Game 3, H2K decide that Ashe is a bigger priority than Misfortune, so they leave it up, which once again makes it unsafe to early rotation the Zyra, handing it over to Samsung. I don't know what H2K did to prep around the Misfortune pick, and I really don't want to assume anything. But after seeing how important it was in the SKT vs Rocks series and how simple it seems to be to play, if I was still coaching, I would have made Vander play it in solo queue or run 2v2s with it just to get familiar with the pick. It seems like he should have been able to pick it up, and I don't want to assume if they did it or not, but if they didn't do this kind of practice, it's a massive error in their prep. Moving on to the AD carry position, obviously I'm going to take Forgiven and Prawley's word that he can play Jhin and Ashe at a high level. That does make it seem a little bit weird though that they weren't looking to pick those, since a lot of us on the outside were saying that H2K needed to get strong lanes and early advantages if they had any hope of winning. That's all kind of a moot point though, because there was such a problem at the support position that they probably couldn't get a strong winning matchup no matter what anyways. This week's unsponsored High Five Comment of the Week award goes to Davey. I believe that brevity is the soul of wit, and this comment is both brief and witty. That's it for this week's episode of The Blame Game. SKT head into the finals as heavy favorites versus Samsung, but regardless of the outcome, I need you guys to give me some fodder in those post-game threads. If somebody could just go in there and flame the hell out of anybody, that'd be great. This season's coming to a close, and with it, The Blame Game is winding down since the show mostly relies on talking about in-game pro-level play. I do have a lot of other stuff planned for this channel though, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys subscribed.